Many retirees are shocked to find out that they cannot get their Social Security benefit at age 62. In this video, I'm going to walk through why that is, the assumptions that are made, and what you need to know so that you know when you'll actually get your check. Not only when in the month will you get your first check, but when are you entitled? When are you able to actually begin benefits at age 62? Because it's probably not when you think. In fact, for almost everyone, you can't get it in the month that you turn age 62. Now, there's a couple caveats. I'll walk through that, but there's really three key pieces to this. So the first key assumption that throws most people off is that the Social Security Administration actually assumes your birthday is the day before your birthday. Yes, you heard that right. They just change your birthday. They just think, hey, I know you were actually born on this day, but we're going to assume it was the day before. Now, apparently this is based on English common law. I don't know about you, but to be quite honest, I don't know a lot of English common law. So this was news to me when I found out. And so if you're born on the 1st, they consider you to have been born on the last day of the prior month. If you're born on the 2nd, they assume you were born on the 1st of the month. And if you're born on the 3rd and anything after that, they assume you were born on the day before that day. So relatively straightforward, but the implications are less so. And this is because you actually have to be age 62 throughout a full month, so the entire calendar month, in order to be considered entitled. So your month of entitlement, or MOE as they call it, is determined based on the first month in which you are deemed to have been age 62 for the entire duration of the month. So at this point, we have determined two key assumptions, right? Your birthday is considered the day before your birthday, and then you have to be that age through the entire month. Those are the two conditions that are going to determine when your month of entitlement, or your MOE, actually is. And this is going to deem which month you're able to file for. Now, keep in mind, when you file, you will not get paid until the next month because Social Security is always paid in arrears. So you're getting paid in February for January and so on throughout the entire year. So whenever we look at this, this causes some really weird and interesting problems. Now, I call them problems because for the average person who's retiring and taking Social Security at age 62, heck, for the average retiree getting advice from a financial planner, they don't realize that the day of the month that you're born on is going to result in some strange outcomes on when your first check will be. And the third and probably simplest piece of all of this is actually what Wednesday of the month you'll receive your Social Security check once it does begin. And you'll see that fleshed out more as we continue through the examples here. In an effort to keep things relatively straightforward, let's actually use the examples that the Social Security Administration provides on the Program Operations Manual system. Now, on this page, they show a chart, well, actually a few charts, and these illustrate, depending on when your day of birth is, when your month of entitlement would be. And keep in mind, that's going to determine when you'll get your first check. So the day of your birthday is actually a critical piece of determining not only when you're entitled to get Social Security, but also when you'll get that first check, which could really throw things off a lot more than you might expect. So let's look at example 1, and you'll notice that Anne was born on May 31st. And because the Social Security Administration assumes she was born the day before her birthday, we can assume that her birthday is then, in their eyes at least, the 30th. So even though her birthday is on the 31st, they're assuming it's on the 30th, which means she was not age 62 for the entire month of May. Now, that all tracks and makes sense now that we know the rules, but it's not necessarily intuitive. And so many people who are applying for benefits at age 62, if their birthday's in May, they're probably expecting to apply and begin receiving benefits in either May or June. The problem with that is, while she is going to be entitled in June, Social Security is always paid in arrears. So she actually won't get her first check for June until July. And since she was born in the later part of the month, basically the way that it works out is that you're either going to get your check on the second Wednesday, the third Wednesday, or the fourth Wednesday. And in this case, since she was born in the last bracket, she's not going to get her check until the very end of July, the fourth Wednesday in July. So for somebody who's planning on starting Social Security at age 62 and they know they're born in May, this could be quite the surprise and much longer than they expected to wait to actually get that first check. And you'll also want to pay special attention to the RF column. Now, RF in this case stands for reduction factor. And since these examples are archaic, because it's the Social Security Administration, so of course, even the examples on their website and on the program operations manual system are outdated, they do still give us some really helpful insights here. So it shows a reduction factor of 35. And if you look at all the examples really quickly, you'll see that it's 35 for 3 of them, but it's 36 for 1 of them. Now that's important because since their example is assuming a full retirement age of 65, to reduce it fully all the way back to age 62 would be 3 years or 36 months. And since Social Security is reduced on a monthly basis, that means 3 of these examples are not getting fully reduced. And this can be a little bit confusing, but essentially, unless you're born on the second of the month, you actually cannot get exactly 70% of your benefit. You cannot get a fully reduced benefit simply because of your day of birth and the way that it ends up changing your month of entitlement, which then results in them giving you an additional month. Even if you file as early as you are able, as early as they'll let you, you still can't get the full reduction. You'll actually end up with 70.4167%, something like that. And so it's actually only possible for people born on the second of a month to get the full reduction all the way down to 70%, which is kind of a fun fact. And it is helpful if you're targeting a specific benefit, but there's nothing you can do about this. It's simply just based on when your birthday is. Now, if we take a look at Bill, because he was born on June 1st, his birthday and the age at which he'll be deemed 62 is actually the day before, which is May 31st. This results in a month of entitlement of June because he'll be considered 62 for the entire month of June. This means that he'll then get paid for June in the following month in July because it's always paid in arrears. And you'll also notice that Bill's reduction factor is 35 instead of 36, meaning again, he gets 1 less reduction and there's nothing he can do about it. So he can't get to 70%. The earliest he can take it will result in actually getting 35 reductions instead of 36. Now, if we take a look at Corey, you'll see why Corey is unique. So Corey was born on the 2nd, and this makes him the anomaly. He's the special golden child of the Social Security Administration because since he was born on the 2nd, they assume his birthday was on the 1st, which thereby makes him 62 for the full month, since they're assuming his birthday was on the 1st instead of the 2nd, for the full month of June, which means he's actually entitled in the month of June. So he checks all of those boxes for that reduction factor of 36. So this is where he gets that full reduction. Everybody else, they're going to get 35 or less, depending on when they take it. So it's just really odd because just by way of having a birthday on the 2nd, that leads to some strange implications that lead to an additional monthly reduction that almost nobody else is going to be subject to. Now, if we take a look at Demi, she's the last example, and in my opinion, it seems like she really gets the worst situation out of everyone. Demi actually turned age 62 on the 3rd of the month, so June 3rd, but they consider her birthday to have been the 2nd, which means she doesn't qualify as having been 62 for the full month of June. So her month of entitlement gets pushed back an additional month, which means she's not actually entitled to receive benefits until the month of July. Now, the reason I think this is the worst is because we get paid in arrears. So for her to start Social Security as soon as possible, simply by way of having been born on the 3rd through the end of the month, her month of entitlement gets pushed back a month, and then she's actually going to get her check in August. And so that's nearly 2 months. that she's not going to have a check whenever she may have, and many people do think that they're applying in June, especially if your birthday's on the 3rd, you probably expect to get a check that month or certainly in July, right? Not the case. In this case, she's not considered having been qualified until July, and then she'll get her first check in August. Now, that can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's just the reality. It's the way they look at this. And so what you need to do is you need to know these things and then look at your situation and make sure that you apply and plan appropriately. So if you're going to be one of these people that has this large gap between applying and getting your first check, then you should plan accordingly and make sure that you have enough cash flow, or you stop work in such a way that you don't have a couple months without income. That can be really difficult for people. Whether you have a lot of resources or little, if you're not planning for it and it catches you by surprise, that can be a really disappointing thing and can cause a lot of problems at what would hopefully be a really exciting point, which is when you're starting retirement or starting Social Security at the very least. And you could be quite excited about that, only to find out you're not actually getting the checks when you thought, which could throw a wrench in many plans. So what exactly is the conclusion that we should take away after having reviewed these examples? Well, if you look at the other examples, you'll see the same thing. It's very consistent. Essentially, if you're born on the 1st or the 2nd, then your birth month is actually the month that you're entitled. So if you're born in June, then your month of entitlement and the earliest you can actually apply for your benefit at age 62 would be June. But if you're born on any other day, so if you're born the 3rd through the end of the month, then your month of entitlement will not be until the month following your birth month. So again, if your birth month is June, then your actual month of entitlement won't be until July, and then you won't be able to get your first check until the next month after your month of entitlement, which would be August. So for anyone born the 3rd through the end of the month, if you're depending or expecting this income from Social Security, this could be a real shock. It could be really disappointing, and it could throw a wrench in plans. Perhaps you're planning to take a vacation and expecting this income to show up, and you're celebrating retirement, and you end up in a situation where you don't get the check when you thought you would. And so now you've kicked off retirement and you're in kind of a bind, or at least not where you wanted to be. And that's certainly not how I think most people want to kick off retirement. And it would be best if you had a plan and you spent the time to understand when you apply versus when you're going to be able to actually get that first check, because it might not be exactly when you expect. So what day of the month will you actually be paid your Social Security benefits? Well, this is a function of your day of birth. If you're born the 1st through the 10th, then you'll actually get it on the 2nd Wednesday of the month. If you're born the 11th through the 20th, you'll receive your check on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And if you're born the 21st through the end of the month, you'll get it on the 4th Wednesday. If you're converting disability benefits or survivor benefits or something different than just claiming your own individual retirement benefit, then this is something you'll want to confirm with your local Social Security office or call to make sure you know exactly when your benefits will begin if you're making some sort of a conversion. Well, I hope that was helpful. I know that this was probably a little bit more in the weeds than most people want to be, but hopefully now knowing this, you could better prepare for your retirement and not be surprised like many retirees unfortunately are. If you found the information in this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe. That helps me reach more people just like yourself so that they can get good, practical retirement and Social Security tips. If you have any questions or comments at all about what we just talked about, or perhaps it's another financial planning topic, please feel free to leave that in the comments below. That helps me know what people are actually asking and thinking, as well as what to make future videos about. And with that, thank you for watching this video. If you have questions or would like one-on-one guidance, you can find my information in the YouTube description below.